717 is identical to what will be in other bills. So
Okay.
what we've done, regardless of who draws the districts, whether it's an independent commission under the constitutional amendment, if it's an independent commission under statute, or the General Assembly.
The criteria is not contained in the constitutional amendment,
Correct.
so if the constitutional amendment passes, you're still going to need a criteria bill.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes.
You want to walk us through the provisions of it then?
Yes.
Well, adopt the substitute first. There's got a substitute before us. Do we have a motion?
Move to adopt the substitute.
Is there, all in favor of adopting the substitute, say aye.
Aye.
Any against? Okay, the substitute's before the committee.
So the crux of the bill is starting on lines 58. So again, these are criteria that would be in the code that would apply to whoever is drawing the maps. What we've tried to do is to ensure that we are, to the extent possible, taking politics and gerrymandering out of the process and having fair maps that keep districts contiguous, compact, complying with the Voting Rights Act and Section and the 14th Amendment, and keeping communities of interest together to the extent possible, respecting jurisdictional boundaries. And so the criteria start at line 61. So districts would have to be proportionate to the population of the district. They can go up to a deviation of 5%, which is the maximum allowed under law, under the case law. We did not set a particular deviation other than the maximum allowed by law. Districts would be drawn in accordance with the Constitution, the Equal Protection Clause, the 14th Amendment, the Constitution of Virginia, and the Voting Rights Act of 1965. This Part 3 is designed to protect the interest of minority communities and their ability to elect the candidate of their choice. We put this actually in the code in the event that the Voting Rights Act at some point is not reauthorized or is gutted. It does put how the Voting Rights Act is currently and has been interpreted by courts in place to enshrine that in our code. 4 is the district shall be drawn to give racial and language minorities an equal opportunity to participate in the political process and not to dilute or diminish their ability to elect a candidate of their choice, again, enshrining the principles of the Voting Rights Act in the code. Districts will be drawn to preserve communities of interest, and we have a definition of communities of interest, which I think is self-explanatory. Make sure that districts are contiguous and compact, and then that the map as a whole not be drawn in a way to favor or disfavor any political party.
Right.
And that we will use the census blocks as the basis for the population, or census for setting the population. The other thing that's relatively new here, I think, but is not new in other states, is reallocating prisoners. So what we're trying to do is avoid situations where districts are drawn such that prisoners who cannot vote are used to meet certain statistical numbers, but they can't vote. So to avoid that, and we think it's more fair to have them allocated for redistricting purposes at the last known address where they were before they were incarcerated.
So it's my understanding that for census purposes, they'll be counted as residents of their prison, of that locality, but for redistricting purposes, they'll be counted back home.
That's correct. And that's in effect is so that you can more fairly represent the interests of those prisoners, because they probably still have family back where they were. And I think their interest when they come out is going to be more aligned with the interests where they were before they went into prison, not just because they happen to be in Buckingham because that's where they were sentenced.